Good evening. The news from Channel 2 of Saudi Arabian television, and first the news at home. Custodian of the two holy mosques, King Fahd bin Abdulaziz, received at the Royal Court at Al Yamama Palace in Riyadh last night the Ukrainian Prime Minister Leonid Kuchma and his accompanying delegation. During the meeting, Kuchma conveyed to King Fahd the greetings of the Ukrainian President. The audience was attended by His Royal Highness Prince Sultan bin Abdulaziz, Second Deputy Premier, Minister of Defense and Aviation, and Inspector General. It was also attended by His Royal Highness Prince Saud Al Faisal, the Foreign Minister, Ibrahim Al-Angari, personal advisor of King Fahd, other senior officials, as well as the delegation accompanying the Ukrainian Prime Minister. His Royal Highness Prince Saud Al Faisal, the Foreign Minister, met at his office in Riyadh this morning the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Anatoly Znenko. They discussed means of promoting and developing bilateral relations along with international issues of common interest. After the meeting, the two sides signed a protocol for establishing diplomatic relations between the kingdom and Ukraine. The meeting and signing ceremony was attended by the chief of the Western Desk at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Nizar Obaid Madani, and chief of protocol at the Foreign Ministry, Muhammad Al-Nuwaisir, and members of the delegation accompanying the Ukrainian Foreign Minister. His Highness Sheikh Jabir Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, the Emir of Kuwait, lauded the efforts of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Fahd bin Abdulaziz, for availing all the kingdom's capabilities for the liberation of Kuwait from the Iraqi invaders. The Emir of Kuwait paid tribute to King Fahd for hosting him and the people of Kuwait during the Iraqi occupation, as well as offering them shelter and safety. In a formal speech given at the ceremony held in Kuwait City in honor of former U.S. President George Bush, Sheikh Jabir said that King Fahd's brotherly stance will stay alive in the hearts of Kuwaitis and will always be remembered with deepest appreciation. The Emir of Kuwait underlined the efforts and initiatives taken by President Bush until the liberation of Kuwait. He also praised the efforts of the GCC countries, Egypt and Syria, who supported Kuwait against the invaders. His Highness Sheikh Jabir presented the former U.S. President with Mubarak Al-Kabir Medal in recognition of his efforts. UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali led an international condemnation today on Serb attacks on Srebrenica, while peacekeepers made new efforts to rescue civilians from the Bosnian enclave. I wish to express my indignation at the inexcusable assault on civilians in that town, Boutros Ghali said in a statement released during a visit to Italy. UN officials made a fresh effort to collect more refugees from the besieged Muslim pocket, where rebel Serb forces have advanced to within rifle range of the town center. As a 20-truck convoy cleared inspection by Bosnian Serb authorities and advanced toward the encircled town, UN officials said Serb and Muslim military leaders plan to meet in Sarajevo tomorrow to discuss restoring peace to Srebrenica. UN workers said more than 60 people have died in the town this week in a series of successive Serb artillery assaults. Meanwhile, NATO said today one of its radar planes spotted what could have been a helicopter violating the no-fly zone over Bosnia, but that fighters had not been able to intercept because of violent storms in the area. It was the second possible reported violation since the alliance began enforcing the ban on Monday. A spokesman for Operation Deny Flight told reporters at the mission headquarters in Vicenza that U.S., French and Dutch fighters had flown a total of 102 sorties over Bosnia since the mission started. White House spokesman George Stephanopoulos said yesterday that U.S. President Bill Clinton was considering lifting the arms embargo on Bosnia-Herzegovina if Bosnian Serbs did not return to the negotiating table and consider signing an international peace plan. In Tokyo, U.S. Secretary of State Warren Christopher spoke about a 15-day delay in approval of a UN Security Council resolution tightening economic sanctions against former Yugoslavia. This was to allow Russia until April 26th to pursue its own negotiations with Serbia, a Russian ally.
Defend themselves.
As you know, President Clinton has said that suggestion is under active consideration. Obviously, this is a tragic situation in Bosnia, and if the Bosnian Serbs don't come to the negotiating table in a constructive way, we'll look seriously at pressing for lifting the arms embargo. In the meantime, we're going to continue to press for a tough sanctions resolution in the UN. We're going to continue to work on the Serbs to come to the negotiating table, but the prospect of an arms embargo is something the President certainly will consider if the Serbs don't come to the table.
The United States has been talking with Russia about the vote on tightened and tougher sanctions against Serbia. That vote was potentially to come on this week. The Russian government indicated that they had active conversations going that might possibly cause the Serbian government to put influence to bear on the Bosnian Serbs, and they thought there was some possibility that they could achieve a settlement within this period.
In related news, UN officials said today civilians wounded by Serb artillery attacks on the Muslim enclave of Srebrenica in East Bosnia are dying in hospital at the rate of 5 a day because they cannot be treated.
They were expecting the worst, these mothers from Srebrenica, as they entered the hospital where they'd been told their injured children had been taken. Maria Vekovic brought her son Enko with her. They were looking for his older brother, Sead. She'd been told that Sead's face and his terrible injuries had been seen around the world, but she hadn't seen him since they became separated on the convoy that brought them out of Srebrenica. Maria was at Sead's bedside before he was aware of her presence. "Where have you been?" he asked her. "Not far away," she replied. "Is Enko there?" he said, asking for his little brother. Feeling the boy's face and telling him not to cry. "Am I horrible to look at?" he asked his mother. No, son, she told him, as Enko tried to hold back his tears. Malia and Enko were able to spend an hour with Sead, helping him eat an orange and telling him that everything would be all right. Then it was time to go, to make way for the medical teams. The doctors at Tuzla Hospital have now had time to make a full examination of Sead's wounds. The news is not good. But Sead's mother wanted to know the truth. She asked to see the chief surgeon. He told her the blast from a shell had destroyed Sead's eyes. There's nothing left to save. He'll never see again.
Good evening, and continuing with international news. Israeli troops prevented Palestinians from entering Jerusalem today, while clashes between Palestinian youths and Israeli troops were reported in many places in the occupied territories. Israel sealed off the occupied lands 2 weeks ago. The closure cut off Arabs in the West Bank and Gaza Strip from Jerusalem, their economic, spiritual and cultural center. The army has said permits issued by the military would be required for all territories Arabs trying to enter Israel and Arab East Jerusalem. Meanwhile, Palestinian and Lebanese negotiators met senior United States officials in Washington yesterday in an attempt to resume the stalled Middle East peace talks. Sohail Shammas, Lebanon's chief delegate to the talks, told reporters he was pleased with the U.S.'s decision to play a more active role in the peace process, and he predicted that it would help the dynamics of the negotiations. Palestinian chief negotiator Haider Abdeshafi welcomed Israel's decision to allow delegation leader Faisal al-Husseini to negotiate at future talks, saying, "We've been asking for this for a long time."
Conception of its role as a full partner, as an active full partner, and at this stage I can say that we have been satisfied with what we have heard, and I think their role will move ahead in the light of the dynamics of the negotiations.
Good afternoon. I don't have much to tell you. We just had a discussion about the problems of the peace process. We didn't finalize this discussion yet. Probably tomorrow we'll have another short session. And I hope we have something specific to tell you tomorrow.
Blacks in South Africa's townships returned to work today after yesterday's national strike, and countrywide protests against the killing of nationalist leader Chris Hani resulted in death, injury and the destruction of a huge amount of property. Still on guard despite the calm, troops who have been sent into so-called unrest areas watched as the nation braces itself for what may happen on Monday when Chris Hani is buried. In Soweto, where 4 people died and nearly 300 were injured in clashes with the police, the trains were running again. But the town will be the center of major demonstrations before Hani's funeral. At least 11 people were killed in South Africa's volatile Natal province, bringing to 17 the death toll from violence during the National Day of Mourning for Hani. President F.W. de Klerk said yesterday that he was putting 3,000 more men on riot duty after mass action to mourn Hani turned to violence. Speaking in a national televised address after a meeting with the Security Council, de Klerk said he was not going to allow the country to degenerate into chaos.
I want to say that one is deeply concerned because the ANC leadership went out of its way to